A Florida judge has ruled against Governor Ron DeSantis. Now, on Friday, the Miami Herald reported that U.S. District Judge Robert L. Hinkle had ruled that DeSantis broke the law when he had fired Hillsborough County State Attorney Andrew Warren. So now, Warren had been relieved of his duties last August after certain allegations that were made by Ron DeSantis and his team. So now they claim that he had blanket policies and had promised not to prosecute against transgender people and women who get abortions. So he also alleged that Warren's policies had discouraged prosecution of certain low-level misdemeanors in cases arising from police stops of bicyclists. Interesting. Talk about going after the little guy. I thought there were more important things to do for Ron DeSantis. Apparently not. No, apparently, as you're going to see here, this entire case is, well, Ron DeSantis saying this guy is not taking on the woke. Oh, okay. Sure. Now, Judge Hinkle in his ruling had written that this allegation was false. Quote, Mr. Warren's well-established policy, followed in every case by every prosecutor in the office, was to exercise prosecutorial discretion at every stage of every case. Any reasonable investigation would have confirmed this. But understand that Ron DeSantis does not want to be reasonable. Fascists aren't reasonable. He's a fascist. They don't care about the facts, and apparently don't even care about the law. So now, despite concluding that Governor Ron DeSantis did violate the Florida Constitution, as well as the First Amendment, free speech, literally, Judge Hinkle, however, said that he was not able to restore Warren to office. And so it looks like Ron DeSantis gets away with winning in the first place. Even after losing in court. It's amazing. So now, let me get into the details of how this was purely political and how this is a big political win for Ron DeSantis. So now first, Warren's lawyers had presented testimony from a man named Larry Keefe, the governor's public safety czar, who said DeSantis had first asked him in a meeting last December if there were any Florida prosecutors who were allegedly not following the law. Okay? Keefe said that the governor, in a meeting, had railed against woke prosecutors in other states.
The wokers.
Yep, he's talking about the wokers. He's got to go after the woke. Amazing. Keefe said that he said that he had talked to like-minded sheriffs, prosecutors, and Republicans throughout the state, and all of them pointed to Warren, who was an elected Democrat. Well, obviously that guy he's a Democrat. He must be woke. That's it. We got the woke.
The wokers.
We got to get him. Get rid of him. Get rid of him. So now look, in one of the early drafts of the suspension order, it had contained references to George Soros. See, we got this woke prosecutor. He's getting funded by George Soros. We got to get rid of him. We have to. We don't have a choice. We got to get rid of him. Oh, I know. Let's just say that he's not doing his job. Obviously, political firing. Look, Ron DeSantis wants to break the law. Simple as that. He already did by doing this. And he also wants to go after trans people, after women who get abortions, people who allegedly did voter fraud, even though they were told they could actually vote. But, were lied to because they couldn't. And in order to do that, to go after all of his basically culture war targets, the red meat that he gives to the base that allowed him to get into office in the first place, he needs to have attorneys that play ball. If you do not play ball, you're gone. Look, this doesn't have anything to do with preserving law and order. What he's trying to do is violating people's rights in order to get and keep political power. He is turning Florida into a fascist dictatorship. Look, Andrew Warren, as I mentioned before, he was elected to that position twice by the people of Florida. Ron DeSantis came in and said, no, we don't like you. I don't like you. Dismissed, sir. Dismissed. And then, once he was gone, he put his own person in. Now, who is that person? Well, it turns out Warren's replacement has some issues of her own. So this is a prosecutor by the name of Susan Lopez, and she was appointed to DeSantis to replace Mr. Warren. Lopez had apparently been heavily criticized by her previous supervisor for having some job issues, performance issues at work. Now, an internal memo obtained by the Tampa Bay Times outlined what she had saw. This is the supervisor as ongoing problems with Lopez's performance from 2018 to early 2020, while, of course, she was working under that supervisor. These issues included Lopez's inability to make decisions and to even prepare for and try cases. So she would come to court. She is a prosecutor, and she would come to court completely unprepared. Like, just not able to do her job whatsoever to make a case for the state. I mean, seriously. Anybody would get fired. But instead, Lopez gets elevated after numerous complaints. And so now the only way that Lopez left that position was because Ron DeSantis elevated her to another position, to a county judge position. And then in August had replaced her or appointed her as Warren's replacement as the attorney, the state attorney. And look, she's lazy at her job, allegedly. Again, according to the people who she had worked for, she had issues. So why would Ron DeSantis basically elevate this person who, again, is apparently terrible at her job, especially terrible at managing other people? In her new position, she manages a lot of people and does a lot of cases. She could hardly get her shit together for the limited cases that she had when she was having these performance issues. Why would DeSantis do this? My guess is she looks at Ron, he looks at her, Ron DeSantis does, and says, well, that's the kind of person I want, someone who's not going to do their job. Again, why would you want that? Well, if you're a prosecutor, you might actually have to go after political corruption. Oh, okay. So that might be the issue. Not only is she, again, not a Democrat, but she also will not, go after political appointees. She will not go after corruption. And so she'll sit back and basically do nothing while everyone else, all the other pro-DeSantis attorneys, will continue to go after, the so-called wokeness. That's what's going on here, in my view. Either way, it's very, very clear that Ron DeSantis is not above breaking the law. Again, he literally did in order to get his own way. So I think anybody who thinks that Ron DeSantis would not be a dangerous person, especially if he were to get an even bigger, higher office, say if he runs for president, I think again, he's willing to break the law here, including the First Amendment, so-called free speech. What wouldn't he do? Scary thought, man. Scary thought. Okay. It just amazes me that DeSantis' policies can be framed in such a way to be considered good. Yeah. Again, there are people that want that. They can't wait to go after the transgenders and everyone else, the wokers. Gotta fight the wokeness. Even though by the way, Ron DeSantis has not been winning in the courts. He's been doing pretty poorly when it comes to, for example, the stunts for going after people who did voter fraud. All of his different voter fraud cases. Oops, a lot of them overturned. In fact, almost all of them overturned. And some of his policies when it came to the Stop Woke Act. Again, we're talking about the wokers, right? He's obsessed. They're obsessed with the so-called wokeness. You know what I'm saying?
The wokers.
It's obsessed with it. Well, some of those, policies have been rejected as well by federal courts. It's amazing. But he keeps trying. And that's why Republicans continue to like him, continue to support him, because he's focused, he's all in on the culture wars. By the way, even when he goes after, for example, Disney, right? Which I'm not exactly against, but when you look at the reasons why and what he's trying to do, well, I mean, again, culture war stuff. Instead of going after Disney, for example, poor working conditions. For example, I've heard about the Marvel employees being treated very poorly in the crunch culture, and then not paying workers at Disney, at the theme parks and stuff, not paying them well, treating them poorly. No, we're not going to go after that. We're going to go after them for wokeness. It's ridiculous.